Alchemy is turning that which is matter into gold. So we do that with self. Trauma into gifts, right? It's the rebirth cycle. People tend to overfocus in one plane, right? So you know how I told you people are bobbing up and down from physical to emotional, mental? We have other people that go into spirituality and they only want to play in soul and energy. But that's also unbalanced. A balanced human is rooted in the physical, aware of emotions and mind, also connected to soul and connected to energy, right? So it's not about being in one dimension, it's about mastery of all.
On today's episode, Jana Bartlett, integrative healer and business coach.
Jana, I would say thank you for joining me today, but I'm joining you today in your home. This is a new thing, by the way, that's been happening in this podcast. I've just recently starting to record on the go. So we're currently in Ibiza for anyone watching in your beautiful home. And for anyone listening, start watching. So, Jana, tell me, what is an integrative coach?
Let's start with what's integrative healing. Let's start there. Also, it's such a pleasure to have you in my home, an unexpected, wonderful pleasure. Integrative healing is an approach that I have taken to healing after being in the healing world for about the last 11 years. And something that I found within healing or within everything is that we tend to separate and people tend to specialize in different areas, right? So you've got the mindset people over here, you've got the trauma workers over here, the psychologists here, energetic healers over here, shamanic medicine, you know, all of these different modalities that exist. And that's fantastic, right? But what actually creates total transformation, I've found, is when we bring all of these modalities together. So integrative, the word integrative means the sum of multiple parts. In my opinion, the sum of multiple parts create a greater whole. So integrative healing is a multi-dimensional and multi-modality approach to healing. It's not just focusing on one aspect of health and healing. It's, you know, zooming out and understanding that there is way more to health and healing than one thing. So an integrative coach would be someone that is versatile, trained in multiple modalities, trained in multiple dimensions of healing, and someone that you're able to go from one modality to another modality, to go from, you know, this person needs this person needs to look at their hormones, this person needs to look at trauma, this person, you know, when you're a coach and you're able to access huge amounts of information depending on what your client is bringing you, for me, okay, in my perspective, that is a coach that is way more beneficial, right, than someone that can only bring one dimension.
So are you talking about generalist versus specialist?
That would be the greater conversation, right? Because we see this in science, don't we? Chemists, biologists, physicists. We see this in medicine, like doctor, skin doctor. But the skin isn't separate to anything else, right? It actually works as a unified whole. So I think globally, and this is the message underneath it, which you picked up on, is that, in my opinion, it's about the whole, not about just going into one focused part, right?
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree.
Today's episode is brought to you by Momo Kombucha. If, like me, you like to be healthy and enjoy life at the same time, Momo could be a great addition to your diet. Tangy and sweet, fizzy and refreshing, it's also really good for your gut. Momo is a natural unfiltered kombucha, which means it's a fermented drink low in sugar and naturally contains probiotics and healthy organic acids. It's also full of antioxidants and acetic acid, which boosts your energy and lowers your blood sugar levels. I like to have mine on empty stomach or in the evening as a mocktail. Let me know which flavor you like best and use a discount code ISTHISIT15 to get a 15% off of your first order.
On the part that we can't treat a part of ourselves, a part of our soul, a part of our emotional body, a part of our physical body as separate, because it just doesn't work like that. You know, we are connected by our tissues, by our bloodstream, by our muscles. We have our skeletal system, and all of them work together to create this beautiful body. And equally now, all the scientists have proved that mind-body connection is real, and you cannot separate them. So there's now more and more incredible things about somatic work and how can you create that connection between mind and body. So I would like to hear a little bit more about your professional journey and how you got to where you are now.
Yep. So we talked about this briefly. We've just had some food. We've just met, but we didn't go straight into the podcast. Do not worry.
She did offer me some food before.
We did have snacks. Potatoes were involved. It was delightful, and we have had this conversation. So I'll go again. About 11 years ago, and I always start with this point, even though it did begin earlier for me. I always knew that I was going to do something like this as a small child. I was considered to be very mystical within my family. But 11 years ago, when I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and an eating disorder in the same 3 weeks that my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And the irony was that I was studying an undergrad in psychology. And so when I was diagnosed, I was a very good girl, and I did exactly what I was told. I took my medication. And it got to the point, you know, when I was diagnosed, kind of all of this family stuff started unraveling, and people started telling me that mum had been depressed, you know, that she was on medication, that my grandparents were on medication. And I realized it wasn't just about me. And I realized that what they had done hadn't worked, because for me, in my 19-year-old brain, I was like, if medication worked and was a long-term solution, then they would be off the medication now because it would have worked. And so, you
logic.
know, it was just, and so I finished my undergrad, ironically worse than I began in psychology. And I had 3 awards of excellence. You know, I got by far the highest marks in all of my final exams in the university. I would have been offered a scholarship if I stayed. But for me, it was can I swear?
Yeah.
Fuck that moment. I was like, let me just check.
This episode will be more explicit. Don't worry. Yeah. You're good.
I'm like, how much of myself can I bring to the table?
All of it.
All of
Bring
it. Good. And so I took a one-way flight to Australia at this time. We were told that mum's cancer was in remission. We were told that she was cured. And I didn't really think anything more of it, right? And when I was in Australia and New Zealand, I started to study alternative therapies. And I started with what everyone starts with, right? Nutrition, meditation, yoga. Like, 10 years ago, that was alternative.
Yeah.
No one was doing that. So that felt very fringe for me. And I did get results. I got off my medication. Things were better in areas I had a feeling that I desired to live, right? That was a new thing for me. But when my mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I got an email saying mum's dying, email guys, I realized that these modalities like nutrition and meditation and yoga was just scratching the surface. And when shit really hit the fan, I didn't have the resources, right, to cope with it, to deal with the trauma of being a primary caregiver from 23 to 26, right? And these are things that happen to a lot of people. I'm not unique in this. And so I realized the need for education. I'm like, a lot of people are experiencing big things like loss, divorce, abuse, really serious relationship problems. And even though there is awareness, for me, awareness is the bare minimum that you can do. Awareness isn't transformation, awareness is information. And so I became very passionate about searching for transformation for me and for the world, right? And I remember making a promise to myself. I said, Dad, I'm going to learn how to heal, and then I'm going to bring it to the world. And that's really what I'm doing, right? So that's when I started studying trauma and shamanism, not ayahuasca. I'm not ever anything against it, but I personally access altered states of consciousness without anything. So that kind of trauma.
Through breath work or through what?
No. They're accessible when you learn. Like, you can just drop. I could just drop like that. You can ask me more questions.
Yeah.
We can circle back to that. And, nervous system, hormone healing, relationships, the unconscious mind, hypnotherapy, different brainwave states, all of these modalities were actually what started creating transformation for me. And so integrative healing, which is my system of healing, is a map through these healing modalities. It's the framework that I was desperate for when I was really in it, Because for anyone that's lost someone, and it's been a long period of time, you really are in it. And I don't feel that as a culture we are resourced, really, in actual education and things that can support people. So the School of Integrative Healing started as that. That's my business. It started as, let's start educating originally women, it's now men and women. Let's start educating women. And it went from being, how can I get out of a hole, to, oh my God, when I do this work, the same work that got me out of depression, that helped me resolve my trauma, is the work that led me to make $1 million. It's the same work that led me to my current relationship. And I started realizing that there are infinite levels of good. And so for me, healing isn't just about how can I go from bad to good, it's how can I experience more and more levels of myself? How can I experience more and more levels of my authenticity? How can I learn to master myself, right? It's more about living life and business as a spiritual path. So the School of IH started as that educational place, but it's changed because business is alive, right? You know, it's alive with us. It's changed to be a place for people who feel that they've come here to do big things, and their trauma and their inner stuff is getting in the way, and that's what we help them with. It's a brief synopsis.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very profound. So you went through this journey where you didn't have any tools and you didn't know where to look, how to cope with your predicament and your family's and your mother's predicament. So what were the things that you found through this journey? You mentioned that your first step was meditation and it was yoga. What were the other things that you found along this journey that have been very beneficial and very transformative for you? What are these modalities or these tools?
Let's talk about shamanism.
Okay.
So there is a point in my life, and I think this always makes me laugh, right? There's a point in my life that I signed up to a shamanic course, and I had no idea what it was going to be about. And I told my father that I was going to do the shamanic course, and he Googled shamanism. And if you Google shamanism, the definition is a cult. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Did you know that? So my dad's calling me. It just makes me laugh. He's like, Hannah, I love you, but I've Googled shamanism and it says you're joining a cult. So my dad's really nervous. And for those of you guys that have been on a level of spiritual path yourself, you'll recognize that feeling within yourself of you know it's that way, right? You know it's this way, it's completely illogical. It doesn't make sense. No one around you gets it, but you know it's that way. So for me, healing was always, intuitive, but it was even beyond before what I didn't know what intuitive meant at that time. It was just a feeling that I trusted, and it was that simple. And so this shamanic course that I did was really what changed everything for me. It was with someone called Chris Waters that I highly recommend. It's called Spirit of the Inca. It's Inca shamanism, brought to the West by Alberto Biodo, and she was one of his students. And I remember like our first session, and it's in the English countryside, and everyone's wearing wellies, and I've just come back from Spain and I feel very culturally confused. And she sits down and she says, here's the thing. The universe is 4 governing principles. There are 4 dimensions to life. The physical, right? Physical body, what we see, the emotional and mental, right? The thoughts and the feelings that we have around the things that we see. The spiritual plane, which is the level of the soul. The energy plane is where everything is and is not, right? It's when we talk about, energy work, the quantum, that's energy work. And for the first time, I felt that someone had given me a map to healing. For the first time, someone had explained to me the universe. For the first time, someone had explained to me in life. And as a child, I always felt like adults are just fucking around, pretending like they know what they're doing, right? Like, oh, I go to this job, I run around. And I was like,
I pay the bills.
Yeah, I pay the bills. And I'd be like, you don't know what you're doing. I'd be like 5, I was like, this is bullshit. And so when I got to this course, it was such a sense of relief. Because this is ancient wisdom passed down. It's not new information. I felt like someone had been like, Hannah, here's the manual. And so all of the different modalities then slot into the different dimensions, but I got the map from that course. And so integrative healing is taking that course I studied, taking that map, all of those 4 dimensions, and putting modalities into it.
So what are the 4 dimensions once again?
The physical. Okay, so the physical is the materialized. This table, this dress, this hair, comb, which I wonderfully found.
Yes, you did.
I did. What you can see, what's already manifest, okay? People think that that's 100% of reality. It's 25%. Okay? It's 25%. What is manifest is 25%. We could also talk about life through the perspective of the physical lens. So for example, this is a vase. I have nails, right? When you look at life through the physical, it's when you look at the core facts. There is no suffering. There's no judgment. It just is, right? I have hair. I'm a woman. Like, do you know what I mean? There's no story.
Yeah.
Emotional and mental is very interesting.
Is that 1 or 2?
One. The emotional and mental, because thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to thought. It's a biofeedback loop in the body. The emotional and mental are the thoughts that you think and the feelings that you feel around something. I love these nails. They make me feel so glamorous. These nails are so hideous. They're so tacky, right? It's the stories that you bind around the facts. The stories that you bind around the facts create a feeling. These nails are so glamorous. How do you feel with that? Oh, I feel like, my back is straight, like I'm feeling good. These nails are so tacky. How do you feel? Shame. So thoughts create feelings. When you have a feeling and you're in a feeling, if you're radiating in shame, that creates more shame thoughts, okay? This is a dimension. So humans operate in the physical plane and they also operate in the mental and the emotional plane. The healing work begins in the emotional and mental plane, okay? I mean, this is a whole system. I'm going to describe it in a very short nutshell. I've got free courses on this so you guys can explore it if you message me on Instagram. Most human beings live in 50% of reality. Physical, what I think and I feel about it, right? This is a table. I like it. I broke up with my partner. This means I'm going to be alone forever. And they just stay in that, okay? And it's like, but there's no transformation when you're just in the emotional, mental, and the physical. You're playing now already only in 50% of reality.
What are the other 2?
Then we go up, level of the soul, okay? So level of the soul is the spiritual dimension of life. The spiritual dimension of life is understanding. It's like the ability to be able to zoom out, right, of this moment. I'm going in let's use a breakup, right? Physical is I'm in a breakup. Emotional, mental, this means I'll be alone forever and I'm going to adopt many cats and no one will ever love me, right? The feeling is I'm sad. I bloody love many cats, but anyway, that's the emotional, mental. Spiritual is you zoom out and you're able to see your life as a journey. You're no longer in one point, right? You're no longer stuck in one point. You see life as a spiritual journey and you see yourself as a soul on a journey. A soul on a journey believes that everything is as it should be. From the spiritual plane, there is nothing wrong, right? There is nothing bad. So it's about, if this moment isn't bad and wrong, what are the gifts and the lessons? And why is this happening, right? So when you do the healing work from the spiritual plane, it's all about alchemy. It's about, okay, I've had this breakup. I realized that I think that no one's ever going to love me. I've realized the belief that no one's ever going to love me is not conducive to the relationship that I want. I do the work. I zoom up to the level of the soul, and the soul is like, yes, this breakup is perfect. You're going to heal your heart, and this is going to take you to the most incredible relationship of your life. Oh my God, it's going to get so good. And so your little human is so sad, and your soul is like, woo, party, break up, so much goodness, right?
Yeah.
That's the level of the soul.
And is that 1 or is that 2 planes?
1.
1.
So physical 1, emotional, mental 1, soul 1.
We're missing 1.
Yeah, we're going to go to it. 75%. Okay?
Okay. I'm excited.
You're like, can it get better than the party soul?
Exactly. Can it get any better? I'm listening.
This is the one that sometimes gets, and I'll go through it one more time at the end so you can it really lands, but this is the one that really, like, sometimes is a bit hard for people to compute because it's different and it's not the words that we usually speak in. But the final plane is the level of energy, okay? And so when you understand energy, okay, you don't see, but between us it looks like there's nothing, right? And there is something. So different people call it different things. Formless substance is one of those things, right? Energy is another thing that people call it. But basically what it is, the stuff between us is the unmanifest. It's pure creative potential, right? It's that which has not yet taken form, okay? So when you're healing through the energetic plane, and this is what a lot of people miss, it's like, I've done the work on my heart through the relationship. I see this relationship as part of a greater journey. And then the energy work is around manifestation. Where do I want this to take me? I've done the healing work. I see it as part of my soul's journey. And where am I anchoring into, right? Because if everything is and is not, what do you want to be? It's language that's weird when you're not used to it, right? Manifestation, what is manifestation? Manipulation of energy to create form. what manifestation actually is the process in which, as humans, we create our life, which is happening always at all times to all people. It's a law of physics. It's not something that we switch on because we're under a moon. It's something you're always doing. And so when you start to create from the energetic plane, what you're starting to do is being consciously aware of your process of creation. That's all it is. When you do the work on the energetic plane, it's everything is and everything is not. What do I want to be? And do I have the tools and the modalities to actually create that which I desire, right? How did I go from 400 euros a month to making $1 million?
How? That was going to be another one of my questions.
Mastery of the energetic plane. Pisses people off.
Walk us through this. Give us context.
So
you said that's in 2-3 years. How long of a period did that happen?
So we crossed $1 million in February and March of this year. So we're over that now. I don't know the number. I thought that before. I should know that, shouldn't I? But I don't. Okay. The truth is I don't. It was 2.5 years.
Business of Integrative School of Healing. Okay.
How did I do it? I obviously am grounded. I have business savvy. Okay, let's take those 4 dimensions and bring it to business. Final thing that I want to say on the 4 dimensions before we go. People tend, and this is why it's a map, and this is why I love it, people tend to over-focus in one plane, right? So you know how I told you people are bobbing up and down from physical to emotional, mental? We have other people that go into spirituality and they only want to play in soul and energy. But that's also unbalanced. A balanced human is rooted in the physical, aware of emotions and mind, right? We're not making that wrong. No one's making anything wrong. Also connected to soul and connected to energy. Right? So it's not about being in one dimension, it's about mastery of all. And that really changed the game for me. So how do I go from 400 euros a month, which wasn't enough? I remember when I started my business, I was like at the point where I was like, I'm just not going to eat breakfast because I don't have, like, it was really, and mum was ill and dying, so we didn't really have space for us in the family. How do I go from that to where I am now? I brought the 4 planes into business. So 4 planes in business: physical, strategies, structures. I've invested over 150,000 in some of the best, mentors in business on the planet because I'm serious about my business, because I'm serious about my mission and my purpose. Okay. Physical, emotional, mental. Cleaned out my shit.
How was that?
That was delightful, always. And it keeps coming. That's the incredible thing with being a human. There's always more.
Yep.
So, beliefs, we do a lot of work in my school around this for entrepreneurs, identity work, belief work. Simply, if you're going on social media thinking no one's going to buy from you, you're going to have a business where no one buys from you. It's all that kind of stuff. And what's really interesting is the emotional and mental work affects the physical work. So lots of people that say, oh, I have so many problems being consistent, they just think it's because they're inconsistent, and it's because shit's happening in the emotional and mental plane.
Of course.
Right? Spiritual work is, for me, a business that is connected to soul and connected to purpose. If you're connected to soul and purpose, it never feels like you're working, right? And energy work is mastery of manifestation whilst you do the physical. So the ideal is that you're doing the physical strategies and structures, you're doing the work with the triggers as they come up, you're connected to soul, you're connected to self, you're connected to essence, and you're creating from the energetic field at the same time. For me, it's like, if you can do that, you're invincible. There is nothing that you can't have, because those are the cores of the laws of creation, and everything is created from this, and there is nothing too big for you.
Powerful, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I really like the way that you lay out these concepts. They make a lot of sense. I'm a visual learner as well, so when you speak, I can see the images of what you say, so it resonates a lot, especially with kind of the human being that's connected on 4 levels, the physical, and then there's the emotions, there's the mind, there's the soul, and there's the energy. I recorded another podcast episode today, and I was speaking to my guest about how we really are the conduits to wisdom that is at all times around us, as you say, in this, I call it ether, but we can call it many names. And it's there and it's available. It's whether you are capable of tapping into it. And that's your cleaning work, to clear out your being, your antennas, to tune them, fine-tune them so that they can perceive this wisdom. But you touched upon something that's really interesting to me, which is purpose. So you mentioned this word. What does purpose mean to you? What does the word mean to you?
Wow. Quick note on intuition and tapping in before. For me, it's not about capability. Everyone's capable. It's, are you listening? you know? It's like
The attention.
it's cleaning out, yes. Refining, yes. I mean, like my level of psychic abilities has expanded the more work that I do. And, right, there are a lot of people receiving a lot of messages all of the time because it's not logical, because it's not the way they were taught to receive a message, they're missing it, right? Not everyone has an upbringing where they, you know, the upbringing is trust the feeling. Not everyone has an upbringing where you're taught how to track intuition. So there's a piece about cleaning and there's a piece about slowing down enough internally to listen.
Track intuition.
Pardon?
How does that work?
Intuition is the feeling that comes first, it's subtle. So let's go back to that shamanic training and then I can answer your question. I knew that I had to be at that training. And it was a knowing that was so subtle it could be missed. And then my brain said, that's 4,000 and you're making 400 euros a month. That's fear, right? And so it's learning to distinguish between the subtleness of your soul speaking to you, which is really intuition, your inner being, right? Versus the mind. And so when you are always moving so fast in life, right? You see this a lot in business, just push through, keep going. No fucking don't. Stop, pause, listen, stop. Receive the answer. Is there enough space to receive the answer in your life, right? How do you problem solve? You stop and you allow the answer to come to you.
That's right.
It's far simpler than people think, but we're not educated. So people think they're crazy. Oh, I had this weird idea. It's so illogical. I'm not going to do that. What would people say if I did that?
The layers of the mind.
Right?
Trying to speak you out of things.
Completely. Because the mind wants to keep everything the same. The mind, even though there's a much better life for you out there, it's unknown.
Yeah.
So it's like, no.
Scary and it's a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's like, can you track what's mind? Can you track what's intuition? What was the question before that?
Your purpose.
Purpose. Okay, purpose for me. And I know people have got very different relationships with purpose, and I'll give context. My father is a Norwegian crime fiction translator. As a child, the career advice that I was given was, Hannah, find a niche, something that no one else is doing, and do it better than everyone else. That was the only advice I got.
Good advice.
It's very good advice, right?
Excellent
I'm very
advice.
grateful. My dad is a very original person. We had so much openness in our family, growing up. So as a child, I would say I was very in tune to what do I feel passionately about? What am I here for? And even as a kid before the age of 10, I knew I was going to do something different. You know, it's not really a shock to my family. It's not a shock to me. I can only speak to my experience of purpose. Purpose is what your soul wants to express. Purpose is led by passion. If you can follow your passion, you'll find your purpose. Purpose is more about your essence being expressed than getting or having anything. What do I mean by that? Everyone has got a unique coding when they come to this life, in my perspective, in my opinion. You guys can disagree, that's fine. Disagreement is healthy. And for me, purpose is the expression of that. It's an expression of authenticity. And that's what's led to my business. That's what's led to everything. When I'm expressing my authenticity, things work. When I'm trying to be someone else, because I think that means that I'll be successful, it absolutely does not work. Because it's not my purpose. It's not my unique soul signature. That's how I'd express it. That was a very esoteric response.
No. I mean, I can resonate. I hope that the audience can as well. By now, I've had an array of guests, and each one of them, you know, has different approach, and there's different levels of depth that we go to. I personally really enjoy conversations like this. So, we spoke about something that really interested me. You spoke about money being a spiritual modality and a conduit for spirituality and spiritual growth. Can you expand on that, please?
Everything is spiritual. That's my opinion. Life is the spiritual path. Business is the spiritual path. The problem is people forget to put spirit into it. People forget to connect to soul in business, but business and life in its core form is a spiritual journey. Let me give you an example. So let's use that timeline, 400 euros to 1 million. Or even, you know, when I started and I had those 400 euros, I was living in just a teeny tiny flat I was sharing with someone else to my home now, which is, you know, a multi-million villa in Ibiza. Like, that was a spiritual journey to get there, because it was a journey of becoming. And that's what spirit's here to do, right? It was a journey of hard work, yes. It's not that I just sat down and did nothing. There was action, right? But the action was infused with soul. So what have I had to overcome internally to be where I am? Each level of finances has meant a new me to be born. That's the most spiritual thing that I know, right? Whether it's a new level of leadership, whether it's a new level of health, whether it's a new level of visibility, whether it's a new level of... all of those things is what leads to money. Let's talk about visibility, okay? Because this fucked me up for a long time. I, as a child, was very shy. I did not want to be the face of anything. I've never wanted to be the face of anything. I was teeny tiny, and I remember not wanting to talk to anyone at school. I was bullied, I was shy, I was, all of that. And so expanding as a business owner and expanding in wealth has meant being seen, right? And it means having a bad time being seen. And it means a lot of triggers and a lot of trauma and a lot of fear and a lot of core identity work, right? When you see money as the spiritual journey, you don't make that part of it wrong. You just say, okay, this is the path. I'm being given the opportunity to heal these parts of self, to express greater parts of me. Is Hannah is shy true for me anymore? Or does that need to die so a new Hannah can be born? That's what money requires, that over and over and over again. And so when you're pushing and forcing to wealth, you're missing the alchemy of the self. And that's the spiritual part. Does this make sense?
Say that again.
You're like, that absolutely did not make sense, Hannah.
I want to make sure it lands properly.
That was a very polite response. You're like, you're gone, you went. Come home. Get in that physical plane, Hannah. So, when you're being faced with an obstacle in business, for example, I have always thought of myself as a shy person.
Oh, I understood the whole thing, just the last phrase that you said.
Oh, what did I say? Okay, it's an alchemy of self.
Yes.
What does alchemy mean? Alchemy is turning that which is matter into gold. So we do that with self. Trauma into gifts, right? It's the rebirth cycle. So Hannah is shy and bullied, right? That's what needed to be alchemized. That couldn't go with me to my next financial goal.
For you to reach the next level, you needed to overcome the boundaries and the limiting beliefs that you had that were keeping you from stepping into the light, for being a speaker, connecting with other people, because you were fearful of being seen for whatever reason before. And so you couldn't reach that next level, and you couldn't reach that next financial level as well because of that.
Yes, but it's less about overcoming and more about transmuting. Because for me, overcoming is a fighting energy. And I don't believe that we need to fight. I believe that we need to listen.
So let's talk more about this, because the reason why I asked about money and how it's perceived is that people that don't have money for a reason. And people that don't have money often have very specific thoughts and feelings towards people that do have money. And this is where all the money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are evil, money is evil, all those types of messaging start coming in. So that's kind of one way of looking at things. And there are people in this world that are not using money wisely, but then equally there's a lot of people that do a lot of good with money. So I want to talk about more how people should perceive money and also goal setting around money, and also this desire and clinging towards a specific amount, and the relationship of fear when it comes to money. So this desire of having it for the survival that's coming from fear, and how we can transmute that, as you said, into something much more healthy. And what does that healthier look like?
First there's got to be desire. There are some people that don't want to go down that path, and that's fine.
When you say down that path, you mean?
To create wealth. Law of the universe, basic law of the universe. Your life is a physical manifestation of your unconscious belief systems, okay? If you believe money is the root of all evil, if you believe that all wealthy people are assholes, then that has a effect on your life. You manifest from that point. So we talked about manifestation. Manifestation is what I think and I feel, whether it's unconscious, becomes my physical reality, right? If you believe that all wealthy people are assholes, you will not allow yourself to become wealthy because you don't want to be an asshole. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, the first thing that we work with people in the school, if they're coming in from that perspective, is we neutralize their opinions to the wealthy, because if not, you're just not going to let it in.
How do you neutralize that?
Belief change work. So we do a lot of modalities, we do a lot of hypnotherapy, we do a lot of RRT, we do a lot of shamanic medicine, we do a lot of belief change work. It's actually quite easy to change your beliefs. It's not that hard. Actually, that's true for all trauma healing, all healing. So that's the first thing that I would say. So I would ask someone if they've got a belief. I would never say to someone, especially if they're a new client, you need to change that belief. I would bring awareness, right? Bridge awareness. Okay, cool. And you guys can do this. Give me a money belief. Any.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
Okay, money doesn't grow on trees. That's a fun one, isn't it? I've heard that many times. Okay, so if you close your eyes and then you just zoom out 2 years forward in your life, and you've got the belief money doesn't grow on trees, just look around in your life and look, what would your financial situation be? A little eyebrow raised, for those of you guys that didn't see it. It was subtle, but it went straight up. And I'd interpret that as, I'm not about this.
Yep, precisely. Very true, very true.
I am not about this. What did you say?
Just a lot of hard work and struggle.
Yeah. Right? The typical people that put so much action in and they get really teeny tiny results, right? Because if hard work matched money, there'd be a lot more wealthy people in the world. There are a lot of people that work very hard that don't have a lot of money, right? So what I would then say to someone is like, is that what you want? Is that the outcome that you want? Because you have the power to change that. And once that awareness is created, it kind of creates a bridge of possibility. It's like we can then go to the belief change work and we can then look at, okay, let's program in that money comes to you easily as you take action in things that you enjoy and you're passionate about, right? I had an incredible programming around this. My dad is a Norwegian crime fiction translator and made it. Fuck. What the fuck? I was like, you can make money doing anything. Like, that was literally my learning as a child. I was like, I can collect rocks and someone will pay me. Like,
that's right.
Isn't that amazing? I'm so grateful for that because it was so weird. You know, at school they'd be like, what does your dad do? My dad's a teacher. My dad's a farmer. My dad translates Norwegian crime fiction novels into English. Like, so weird.
Love that.
And so then that belief change can start creating a different relationship with money in your life. So that's the first thing that's really important. So creating awareness of, do the beliefs that I have right now, are they going to create a financial reality that I desire in 2 years? And if the answer to that is no, it's your responsibility to clean that up. Because I believe we are all 100% responsible for our reality. That might trigger some people, right? But that's a good thing, because if you're 100% the problem, you're 100% the solution. It's actually the key to your power. It's actually the key to your transformation. So that's the first part of the money question. Did you want me to go deeper with that? Is that good?
Please tell me.
What was the
various questions? Yeah, I guess the thing that we spoke about earlier whilst we were having some food. And I'd like to talk about the different path, the different feeling that people can have in their day-to-day whilst they're going towards progress in their life. But they're not attached to this money goal, but they gain it as a consequence. So is it good for people to have specific money goals? Or should they have career or service goals that should lead automatically, if executed well, to money as a consequence?
I mean, it depends. I have money goals because I don't see money as any different to a purpose goal. It's fun. It's all play in the kingdom of God, or whatever that you want to call it. It depends. I believe in desire without attachment. So what does that mean? I have a goal. Yeah. I could see that. You're like, I said what you wanted me to say.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So what I mean by that is, for example, let's say you've got a $1 million goal, or you've got a $10 million goal, or you've got a $100 million goal. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is, and we'll talk about creative plane versus competitive plane, which is a really profound teaching. But if you're going towards the $1 million, I don't know why I say dollars, because I've never earned $1 in my life. I work in euros, but everyone says dollars. Anyway.
I thought you were going to say pounds, but okay.
No, don't work in pounds either. You probably work in pounds in London.
Work in pounds, yes.
But in
I also
Ibiza,
work in euros,
do you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you're around Europe, aren't you? Yeah. So what is, and this has been a real thing that I've had to work on, and this is again why money is a spiritual journey, because anyone that is a human being that has lived on planet Earth is going to have an attachment to money. Like it's you're not born not attached. Like, and so it's ludicrous to think that there's not going to be a process and a journey to it. So why are we attached to money? Because we're scared that it's going to run out, which is an ancestral wound, right? In our DNA. Like, if you're a human being, that's shit that you're going to have to resolve. Maybe there have been situations in your family, in your past, where there have been negative experience of money. My grandparents' parents were very, very wealthy, and they lost everything in the Second World War. So the fear in my family is you can have it all and then you'll lose it, right? So when I was on my money journey, I had to really acknowledge that, because I got to larger sums of money and I still felt terrified. So the non-attachment is the cleaning of those wounds, the cleaning of those beliefs, right? It's like programming in, like, money is always here for me, I am safe, you know? And again, this is why it's a spiritual journey. It's about finding safety and wellness and well-being in your life, right? So what would it look like to go towards 1 million or 10 million or a billion or whatever it is without attachment? What it looks like is you're working towards a goal. And so that's basically just like a ship having a direction. That's fantastic. You know, if you have a ship at sea without a direction, it's just going to spin in circles. It's not going to get anywhere. They're going to get seasick, and then they're going to live a whole life and they've just spun in circles, right? So I believe in goals, right? But what I don't believe in is I'm only happy when I achieve the goal.
100%.
That's the thing. And lots of people like that, I only feel worthy when I achieve the goal. I only feel successful when I achieve the goal. You know, people say this, you know, when I lose weight, I will allow myself to be loved.
100%. I mean, I resonate on so many levels, and I talk about it often as well, which is find a way where you're always progressing towards something, you're always working towards something. So life is exciting and you're growing and you're learning and you're expanding. But appreciate where you are. Be present. Enjoy where you are right now, because this moment will never come back. And this one moment is a part of that whole journey, and that whole journey is what leads you to that goal. And ultimately, as we said, and I completely agree on this, when you achieve a goal, it's a couple of seconds, you know, that you are there in that space of achieving that goal. The rest is going towards that goal. So are you not going to enjoy years of working towards it in the name of those 2 seconds? Absolutely not. So in the proportion of the journey versus the achievement, it's like 99.999 versus 0.01. So you better learn to love that journey. Oh my God.
Because the journey is your life. This is what I say to my clients. The journey is your whole life, bar 3 seconds, right? So, and this is the thing, I think a lot of people put their happiness in the having of something. And actually happiness and having of something are 2 separate issues, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I'll be happy when I'm a millionaire. Oh, I'll feel safe when I'm a millionaire. But actually being a millionaire is only a money issue. It's not an emotional issue, right? So a lot of people get to millionaire-dom, let's just call it that. No, that's not English. And they're disappointed because they're not suddenly happy.
Yeah, their fears are not crushed. Their insecurities have not waned. It's still the same person.
Yeah, still the same person, doesn't feel enough. It's not enough to feel safe. And so that's why you want to do both work, inner and outer at the same time,
the
right?
multi-layer 4 modalities that you spoke about.
Yeah. And deeper than that, it's like sometimes in business, when they come towards something like, you know, I'm scared of losing everything, how much money I have, I'm scared of losing everything. What they do is they just push more, I'll go for another goal. And what I want to encourage people is to go for the other goal and stop and look at the wound and do the healing. Because then the journey, not only do you get to have fun, but the journey heals you. So not only do you get to have the thing when you get to the end of the goal, but you're actually this new healed version of you. So it's like, it's a double win. It's like you didn't lose anything. Like, you're more peaceful, you're more joyful, you're more grateful, right? And you got a shit ton of money. Excellent. That's, for me, the process that I want to do, right? And that's something that gives me a lot of safety in my life, because I know each financial goal will be a new and better version of me, but not in a way that I'm not enough right now, but just in a way of I'm going to have so much opportunity to heal so many things within myself.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'd really like for you to expand a little bit more in terms of practical takeaways for people on your journey. So it's an incredible one. You said that you went from 400 to 1 million in 2.5 years. So we spoke about 4 different planes that you worked within to create that transformation for yourself in your life. So some practical things that you went and you did, for example, for the physical one, for the strategies that you did, like business-wise, what helped you? Maybe there are some coaches listening, so some helpful things for them to do.
Just to be in integrity, I want to give exact timelines, because I think it's important that people tell the truth. I was at 400 euros a month about 4 years ago, and then there was a period where I worked on financial abundance for 1.5 years, and then I started the business, and then we hit 1 million in 2.5 years. Right? And now we're about 3 years of business. I just think it's important. There's a lot of people throwing numbers online. Just to be careful, there's no distortion. Practical advice. Fucking invest. You know, and I don't say that as... yourself. Yes, in yourself. In yourself. It's like, it's the best investment you can ever make, because you can't lose it. You know, and like, I don't care who you invest with, as long as you feel the pull and the call of the soul and you trust that intuition. But like, the only reason that I'm here is because of my teachers, and because I applied what they taught me, right? It's not that my teachers were there and then magic happened. You know, I've worked hard, I've applied it, I've done the things, and I've worked hard for a long period of time. But you know, whether it's the shamanic training, whether it's the emotional mental work, whether it's the mindset coach, whether it's the healers I've worked with, whether it's the business strategist, the funnels, the team that I've got, like, the most important practical thing that I can say is that you're not going to get to your goal by sitting in your couch and wishing. Like, you've actually got to get up and make shit happen, and you've actually got to be brave, and you've actually got to push the edges of your reality, and you've actually got to do the next thing, right? And people think that once you've got to a certain financial level, like, that, you know, you don't have to be brave anymore. No, if you want to get to the next level, you've got to be even braver, and then it's even fucking scarier, because there's more to fucking lose, you know? But you got to keep going. You got to keep pushing that. You've got to keep discovering who you are, because you're a limitless being, and let's see how much of that you can experience in this lifetime. It gets to be that fun, right? So work with people that have got what you want. It's a cheat sheet. You can try and do it yourself, but it's going to take you way longer. So it depends. What do you value? Do you value time, right? If so, just invest, because it's going to shorten the timeline. Or do you value money? Okay, I don't care if it takes me 20 years, but I don't want to spend any money. That's a choice you've got to make.
Okay. Anything else?
Practically, to build in business, find an area that is easy for you to put hours in without it feeling like work. Do the emotional and energetic and manifestation work. Find a strategy that works for you and apply it. Be consistent in it, even if it doesn't look like it's working to start with, because it's momentum that leads to sales. And the biggest problem that people have is, oh, I sold 3 times on social media and no one bought, so I'm not going to do anything for the next month. And just remember, everyone that you see that has got what you want was plugged in when it looked like it was working and when it did not.
Thank you. Solid advice. So I want to circle back to something that we mentioned earlier about altered states of consciousness. Can you expand on that, please?
When I did this training, you're given rights. I don't know what they did. I just allowed it to happen. When my mum died, it opened vision for me. So when my mum passed away, it was this very strange situation I'd never experienced it of. I had my first past life memory, and it was very confusing because I didn't understand what was happening.
What was it?
So I sat by her bed. Her dying process was 3 days, and I sat with her in the hospital. I think the whole time I had 1 coffee out of the hospital room or something like that in 3 days. So I stank by the end. And my dad take it in turns to fall asleep, but you know it's your last moments, right? So you want to be there. I'm meditating next to her, and you know the nurses in hospitals, in end-of-life care are truly angels on this planet, that what they do is incredible. No one speaks about it anyway. They told us that we had to create a calm space for the spirit to pass peacefully. They didn't say it in that language, but that's what they said. And I meditated, and I was meditating, and I was saying to my grandma, you know, don't scare mum, just let her go, tell her it's safe. And I looked down at my body, and I'm suddenly, like, I've got this big old belly, and I have this memory of bringing children to life. And this is an edge that I'm sharing this on a podcast. This is usually a personal thing that I share, but anyway. And I have an awareness that in this life, I'm a birth and death doula, and I realized, oh my God, it's just the same thing. Because the death from this plane is a birth on another plane. A birth on this plane is a death from another plane, right? And it was just this expansion of awareness and perception that I'd never had before, and it's never really closed. But this is the most incredible thing. My mum died on July 16th, 2019, and I had my shamanic training on July 21st, 2019, 2 days later. Wow. And when I talk about dedication and devotion, it's like I went. Do you know what? A lot of people wouldn't have gone, but I went because I knew I had to be there. And I'm sitting in this room, and they're giving us these rites. We learn how to be death doulas, and so I facilitate death ceremonies and all types of things. Weird for a business coach, right? But it's in the family. And I'm sat there, and they start telling us about the women, the death doulas in the Inca tradition, in their tribe. And everything they told me is what I just recalled in that past life. And I just started absolutely crying, because it was like, oh my God, Hannah, you're not crazy. Because when it happens for the first time, you just think you're insane. You really do. You're like, was it because I was overtired? Was it because I drank too much caffeine? And I don't really drink that much caffeine. And the lady gave me, the rites had the same name as my mother. It was just the most extraordinary experience. So that opened something for me. So it's very easy for me to drop into altered states of consciousness. I don't know how to teach it because I don't know. It's just something that happens, right? My body moves energy, you know, there's just like, what I do know is that you can learn. So there's something called alpha brainwave state, theta brainwave state. You can train that in your brain. That's helped me drop even deeper. But I do a lot of sessions with people, trauma healing, and there'll be past life retrieval. And, you know, for example, I have a certification course, and I'm training my clients in our modalities, and they're accessing past life. Just from the trauma therapies that we teach, because when you drop in and you connect, it opens, right? So I don't believe that you need necessary plants, and I'm like, it's some people's journey. My partner loves that, right? It's not my journey, right?
Your experience was different.
It's just that I'm not called to it. There's just, people have different, it's all paths lead to Rome. There's different paths. My path isn't that yet. I might change my mind, you know, and we do. Evolution is changing your mind. But for me, I drop in and out of altered states of consciousness extremely easily. You know, I would be like, who the fuck could I be on ayahuasca?
The new shaman of ancient times has been just released into the civilization again. So, Hannah, you've shared a lot of knowledge so far, and I want to make sure that I don't miss anything important. So, over the years, if you look back now, what do you think have been some very crucial learnings that have helped you on your journey?
Anything is possible. You can have anything that you want. Be brave. Follow the energetic thread in life. It's always going to lead you somewhere good. There's so many learnings. But I think it all comes back to be bold enough to be yourself, right? It's like, it's not even about my path. It's not even about what I did. It's about everyone that's listening and their path. And it's going to look different to mine. And that's amazing. But can you trust that? Can you listen to that? Can you do something different to your parents, right? And then your neighborhood? Can you know, I work with people that have very big dreams, right? Like the dreamers that are willing to actually take action. And that only happens when you listen to the desire. I think that desire is God whispering to you his plans. That's my belief system. But a lot of people make desire wrong. A lot of people don't take action on it because it scares them. A lot of people think it's easier to, I'm just going to continue in this job because then I don't have to, you know, do something different. I don't have to, you know, I think back to like the friends that I had when I was younger, and they probably think I'm so fucking strange these days.
But who cares, right?
But who cares?
Who cares? As long as it works for you. And I really like what you just said. I phrase it a little bit differently. I don't speak about desire. I speak about the visions that I have. And when I say visions I have, it's just, I don't know. I guess you could call them desires. You could call them your goals or things that you would like to happen. So there are different ways of wording it. Or you could say, you know, your things that appear to you in your meditations or in your manifestations. I call them visions. And I think those visions, those goals, those desires, those dreams that you have, they are meant for you to achieve, to live out in this life. This is why you have them. And if you've seen them, they can and they should happen for you. And so it's your solemn duty to move towards those visions in this lifetime.
Exactly that.
That's what I think.
I think we can close it on that, no? I'm like,
I
I've
think
got
so.
nothing else to contribute. Listen to that.
This is it. This is it. Hannah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been amazing.
Hello friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and share it with someone. I would love to hear your feedback and suggestions as to what guests you would like to see on the show next. See you next week.